Just
Poetry is like music of the soul, silent, yet it makes itself heard. Poetry is like a song that everyone can sing by reading the rhythmic affair, the free verse style, or the contemporary verses. Poetry is every poet's pulse and passion in words. Poetry is love. So, good evening, people. Today we are doing an episode on poetry, and we are going to read some of our, not some, one poem by each poet, and also we will discuss Edgar Allan Poe, the greatest poet and writer of his time. So, let me welcome Anwesha Bhattacharya and Lolita Bhattacharya for this first episode of Poetry Reading with Chrysanthemum Chronicles. Hello, Anwesha. Hello, Lolita. How are you?
hello.
Hello, ma'am.
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good and
Yeah,
really happy to have
I'm
you
good
too.
too. Same here, ma'am.
Lovely. So, Anvesha, let's start with you. What really poetry means to you and how did it start? Like, when did you start writing poetry?
Actually, if I go back in time, I had started off at a very early age. I was interested in poetry and literature, but writing poetry came to me a little late. I used to keep a diary like many other teenagers, and I used to pen down my thoughts from a very young age. Then I found it was a sort of refuge where I could release all my emotions and I could write anything in that. And I took part in several competitions also, but at that time we did not have so much of social media and all, so
Right.
exposure was limited. Although
Hmm.
in school I participated in a lot of writing contests and all, and then actually this transformation happened around 2018 or 19 when I participated in a poetry contest by Asian Literary Society, and the very first prompt that they had given me to write, in that I won the first prize. I
Lovely.
still remember it was named as "I'm Not Ashamed." I had to write on that, and I had just written and submitted without any thought what would happen. And when the result came, I was really ecstatic, and it meant a lot to me. And I think that gave me a boost to write further. And since then on, I have been writing poetry. I mean, on a full scale.
Wonderful. And
Yeah.
Lolita, what about you? How did you start writing?
This was very accidental actually. I always liked writing, like in schools I would write essays and I would get good marks and I would write letters and my friends and family would say that your letters are very descriptive. I mean, we can visualize the place or feel the emotions and all. So I left it at that. I never really stretched it further. But then during lockdown, I had this idea bubbling inside me about orphans and like a story. So my first story was On the Unknown. It's still available in Amazon. That was my It's more of a novella, and that was it. And then poems just came gradually. In fact, my first poem was, I wrote about a traffic jam where I was stuck, and I like writing lyrical poem, like ending. So it was quite funny and it also made sense. It was very light and funny. So that poem was the starting point. And then people said, okay, no, you're really writing well. And so then I graduated into, writing it full-fledged, not full-fledgedly, but I took it seriously. And then Asian Literary Society, and then Penmancy. And here, with you, I then published a few of my poems and you all accepted it. So that encouraged me further. So yeah, that's how my main journey started since lockdown. I really took up writing seriously because now with so much of exposure, you really don't have to worry. Otherwise, normally it's kept in the diary or in some paper and then stuffed in the drawer, and you
Right.
and just the family members read. So now it's like reaching to a larger audience, so that makes me happy.
That's true. I think social media has become a boon for artists, writers, poets. So we should be thankful. And one more thing I would like to ask that are you writing for the Ganesha one? Because I've just made the poster announcement that I'm taking submission for Ganesha anthology. Have you seen that?
Yes, I saw that.
Okay,
Thinking, yeah, I plan to write something.
lovely. So Anvesha, what are you reading today? And give a little bit of context what your poem is based on.
Yeah, so this poem actually, this thought came to me a few days back because this is something that actually troubles all of us, but we can't express it, we can't do much about it. It is about war and its aftermath. War is something which is a dreaded thing for all of us, but people who have to encounter it, people who actually go through it,
Hmm.
their misery is beyond compare. So that
Right,
is something which even disturbs me, and the recent happenings in the world and everything that we are looking at today. So that's how this theme came to my mind. It's called Life on the Edge. And basically, I have written about the adversity that war causes, so many orphans, so many lives lost, and so much brutality.
right.
So it's about that.
Yes.
So, ma'am,
Please
you
go
want
ahead.
me to continue with the reading?
Yes, yes. Please go ahead.
Okay, okay, I'll read my poem. It's titled Life on the Edge. A web of uncertainty looms in the air. The mist obscures the view to ensnare. The charm of innocence has long been betrayed as survival's quest leaves life withered and frayed. Questioning minds are snubbed in no man's land. Hardly anyone has the power to take a stand. Rummaging the war zone in search of bread, the orphan falls asleep without a shed. Abysmal life persists on razor's edge. Displaced from home, it hangs from a ledge. No wildflowers bloom in this land forlorn, where once a riot of colors used to adorn. The skin scorches beneath a blazing sun, where life once bustled with little ones having fun. As collective prayers invited the rain, with a hopeful surmise of a new grain, voices raised on humanity are hushed. Should one will to survive when the spirit is crushed? A few men's folly is a scourge on humanity. The Lady of Justice is indeed enfolded blind. So that is my poem.
Wonderful. And I
Thank you,
think we
ma'am.
need more such kind of poems and poetry like this because see how the world is burning everywhere. Every time we open the TV, the news, is it is sometimes it's India, sometimes it's abroad, foreign countries. One thing or the other, something is happening. War-like situations. People are fighting, and sometimes I even feel like social media is also, has its negative and downside also. It's causing such,
Yes,
trouble to people, to their mindset. So it's really required more such voices, more such poetry. So really, thank you, Anvisha.
thank you, ma'am.
Survival has become like a war these days, like
Absolutely, yeah.
it's everywhere. Either there's
Yes.
natural calamity happening and so much of destruction happening all over, like man-made
And
and,
so much of uncertainty
nature.
also. You never know what is going to come up the
What
next moment.
exactly,
We can only
exactly.
pray and hope.
Like
Yeah.
Lolita, I feel that natural calamity is something that we have seen from like quite a long time. We are seeing it's happening. But these days, if you just see, every cause is rooting somewhere from either it's media, either it's social media, because it's really making people aggressive, I feel. Because the news
Yeah,
that
they polarize the sentiment so strongly. And even I
Right.
feel the natural calamity that is happening say, in Uttarakhand or Himachal or Punjab is because of our man's greed. You know,
Right.
you disrupt nature, destroy nature,
Yes.
and then you expect the nature to keep quiet. So there are ways of balancing. I think nature has her ways of balancing it out.
Very true. Somewhat nature, somewhat people's own, the way people are behaving these days, it's all acting against humanity only. Hello,
Yeah.
Oh
Sunil
my
ma'am.
God. Hello, hello everybody. Am I audible?
Yes, yes, you
Yes,
are
ma'am.
Hello,
audible.
ma'am.
Hello.
Hello,
Hello, ma'am.
hello.
For you,
Hello, ma'am.
Lolita. I'm so sorry I took all this time. Actually, all this technology really bugs me. it's it's
Good.
made me unpad now. All this technology. Sorry,
Good to have
I
you.
was
Good
not
to
being
see
able
you.
to log in. I don't know what the reason was. I think it maybe was my network or whatever it was. Anyway, I'm here now.
But
Sorry,
ma'am,
I
your
was late.
voice is very low.
So I
Yeah, ma'am.
missed
We
some
can't
stuff.
hear you clearly.
I can't hear you.
We are not able to hear you.
I
Voice is
just can't
low.
hear you at all. Just a whisper. How come everyone can see you and hear you, but I
Ma'am,
can't
can
hear
you
you?
hear us? Can you hear me?
Wait, I'll get my headset or something. Just a second.
So, Lolita, what's your poem about? A slight bit of
My
context.
poem, yeah, my poem is about women. Like we are always blamed for everything that goes wrong, but nobody questions why people. I mean, why it went wrong. So
Right.
it is mainly about Draupadi. You know, every they have different narratives. Some said she laughed at Duryodhan. She was the reason for Mahabharata, but nobody questioned Yudhishthir. Like he was a wise king. He was the truth, dharma personified. So nobody asked him why why he allowed that to happen. So it's based on that. It's all women. It's mainly based on women.
Right.
So yeah, should I start with my poem?
Please go ahead.
Yeah. The poem is titled Queen's Ordeal. A woman is a pathway to hell. That is what old scriptures tell. But are women alone to be blamed, leaving aside those who keeps her spirit chained? From the royal to the ordinary dame, none are spared from the furnace of shame. She was seized by her mane and dragged to the royal court. Her honor defiled, her cries cut short. With folded hands and pleading eyes, she sought aid, but all the royal men stayed mute and afraid. Bound by vows, brittle, hollow, and counterfeit, they watched the queen swallow her pride bit by bit. She prayed for protection in desperate might, to her friend, her guide, her eternal light. As her anguish reached heaven's embrace, endless silk flowed by divine's grace. Her modesty, shielded by Krishna's unseen hands, prove that grace and faith eternally stand. The royal court witnessed an unatoned tragedy where elders witnessed her horrific humiliation silently, while Yudhishthir's quiet guilt he could not hide, sat in silence as her honor was denied. Upon the axis of her dignity spun the cosmic wheel, her cries remain in time's wounds that never heal. Yudhishthir, an epitome of truth and dharma personified, yet was he not an addict unjustified? He should have renounced that fatal game instead of plunging kingdom and kin into shame. He gambled all, gripped by arrogance, where wisdom faltered and pride silenced intelligence. Yet history spares yet history spares men's flaws from blame, while women are written as the sparks of shame. From Sita's defiance to Lakshman's command, to Draupadi's laughter in a crowded stand, from Helen of Troy to Cleopatra of lore, women endure judgment forevermore. For men are steered by a restless mind, where ego and lust cast shadows blind. The whispering heart is too often denied, and in that silence, compassion died. Buried beneath reason's empathy slips from view, leaving broken souls to heal anew. The war of Kurukshetra is eternal and true. It dwells within us, a war between vice and virtue. As Arjun's slumbering spirit awoke and evolved, he rose to fight where injustice revolved. For no God is greater than conscience, the pure soul, and beneath its divine light, humanity finds its moral role. Thank you.
Lovely.
Very
So
nice.
that was like poetry. You have
Thank
written
you.
Mahabharata through poetry. It felt
Yeah,
every chapter, every episode unfolded.
Mona, Mona Lisa, I could hear Lolita very clearly, but I can't hear you clearly. I don't know why. I could hear Lolita very clearly.
I don't know
yeah.
what is happening because Anwesha is able to hear me. Anwesha, you can hear me, right?
Yes, yes, I can hear. I can hear you, ma'am.
I can hear Anwesha also very clearly.
Anvesha is
Some,
very clear, yeah.
I
yeah.
don't know what's happening though. Maybe a technical glitch from my end. So,
Your,
can you hear me a
your voice,
bit?
your voice is resounding when I hear it. The rest, I can hear them both very clearly. Anyway, let's continue.
Okay. So, Sunil ma'am, what you have written, we would like to hear today.
I can't make out.
Lolita, please, can you convey?
Sorry?
Can you please
I
convey
don't
my?
know. Your voice is splitting for me.
Your
I don't
voice
know
is
what.
breaking, yeah.
Anvesha,
It's
can you hear
breaking.
me?
Yes, yes, I'll convey it. Ma'am, Sunil ma'am, Mona Lisa ma'am wants you to share your poetry.
Poetry.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for having me, Mona Lisa, first of all. And I'm sorry. And I'm sorry about the delay and all the confusion. But I'll go ahead with my poem now. And the poem I want to read today is it has actually been written in honor of all the people of Punjab, Himachal, Uttaranchal, and other flood affected areas of India, and how these people are working day and night to reconstruct this unimaginable loss of life, land, and livelihood. I also want to thank every hand that rises to rehabilitate those whose lives have been reduced to a long story of misery, loss, and struggle before they can surface again. Many NGOs, celebrities, armed forces, and officials are working round the clock, yes. But what is remarkable is the spirit of the very people who have been destroyed by this calamity. And this poem is dedicated to this never die spirit. It is a word, it is a word from the last line of the Sikh Ardas. But this is not a religious poem. It only encapsulates the aspiration for constant spiritual upliftment and a universal prayer for the well being of all humanity by God's will. So here goes. The name of my poem is Chardi Kala, which means this spirit of upliftment and positivity in the face of all obstacles, all negativities, never getting depressed because of that, never getting discouraged because of that, but that very obstacle pushing you towards a higher level. So this poem is called Jaldi Kala. When nights screamed and days wept, crashed mountains mighty and grand, ferocious, thunderous waters swept man, beast, crops, and land, rooftops vanishing, trees drowning. No mercy had the neglected dams, wrath erupting and pounding, swallowing villages, food and shelter from man. For a drop of sunshine, Punjab thirsted for days. Even the sun looked away from the ocean of tears. Vacant eyes gazed in a daze, abandoned as always by governance. The triggered DNA of his martial race bowed to his will with reverence. The frontline warrior stayed from forever bearing the brunt. The frontline warrior stayed forever bearing the brunt like a behemoth rose, one fortified front. A soulful stream of consciousness flowed, man to man, farmer turned warrior, each one with valor bestowed. A disabled man, unable to wade through waters neck deep, will stand in sacks for a man made dam, and on the sandpile at night goes to sleep, to start afresh as soon as he awoke, contributing no less than the able folk. Many whose own homes were swept away drank the tears of others, managing to survive yet another day. A young lad who finds the dead may not have been thanked or returned to a home or to a bed, carried on among mounds of cattle carcasses with the human body to rise again, his mission fulfilled, being humane. They challenge the elements with togetherness and hope, whatever be the outer, the inner shall cope to recover and with dignity will live a race that asks for nothing but knows open heartedly to give. Thank you, friends, for listening. That was Chardi Kala. That is the meaning of Chardi Kala, what I have tried to express in this book.
That was really heartwarming. I hope I'm audible now.
Thank you. Yes, you are.
Thank you so much, ma'am. That was a lovely poem and very much required, and also, the things that are happening. We need such words to lift our spirits as well.
Thank you. Thank you so
Now, I would like to ask you, Sunil ma'am, I was asking this question earlier to Anwesha and Lolita that how did poetry come to you? How did you start writing? So, would you like to share your journey?
Actually, I was a sickly child. I was a very frail, sickly child. So most of my time, leisure time, and I was very studious on top of that. I was very fond of studies. So anytime I was sick, all I did was get into bed with a storybook. And I was very fond of reading, not just studies, other reading too. Even as a little kid, I was a bookworm. And I would keep reading. And so that somehow triggered that feeling of wanting to write. I would read Enid Blyton and I would want to write like her or whatever I would read. And I was also encouraged in school by my teachers because most of my writings would be shared sometimes, even when I was in the, I think, third or fourth standard, I don't remember. I wrote an essay for the first time and it was circulated in the whole school. And that gave me a lot of impetus, and encouraged me to carry on writing. And I am quite an emotional sponge. I tend to take on everybody else's problems also. And being in a profession like medicine, I came across women of all strata, rich and poor, and the miserable and the happy, and every woman has at least two families behind, plus extended families. So that woman's story was the story of all those families and all the women in there and all the people of those families. So that somehow triggered a lot of emotional upheaval sometimes in me. And my friends used to joke, they said, she'd go into the theater, do a delivery, and then come back and write a poem. And that is exactly what I used to do sometimes. And that gave me a lot of scope, being in a profession like that. I was very close to the emotional health of my patients. And that would give me a lot of material to write. So that is how my journey started. And then I was able to express my own feelings also because of that.
Lovely. It's always so good.
It's been a very long journey because at my age I've lived so much. I
Touch
have
wood.
not said.
It's a beautiful journey to know everybody has a different story to tell. So it's always good to know how did writing come to, the poets and writers, because something happened, some kind of ignition, some sort of, uh, incident that make them write. So it's always good to know that. So as we have mentioned in the show earlier, that we will be discussing a bit of Edgar Allan Poe, the greatest writer of his time. So, anything you want to say, Anvisha? What's your take on his works?
Yeah, so as far as I have read about him, he was a very acknowledged and noted writer and poet of his time in the early 1900s and
Right.
late 1800s, I believe. So, as an American writer of great repute, I think his poems are a bit uh, different from the rest in the sense that they have a supernatural element to them,
True.
and also they have a musicality also in them, which is very rare in those poetic formats, which I
Hmm.
like. And apart from that, the mystery element, the suspense element, which is there
Right.
seen in most of his poems, that was a highlight.
Hmm.
That's why I think he's known as one of the forebearers of suspense and mystery
Suspense and
during
mystery,
his
right?
time.
And you know
Yeah,
that
and
Macabre word also comes from him. The tales that he started writing Macabre. The stories were
yeah,
mostly like
yeah,
that.
yeah, 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 exactly, exactly. So all of his poems, as much as I have read, I feel there is a supernatural element in them, which
Yeah.
is like a kind of transformation, transcendence from one life to another. So that feeling is there. So which makes
Right.
it stand apart.
True. Lolita, have you read any of his works?
I've not read much, but I've read a few. Like the one is Raven, and the other one is Annabel Lee. And I really liked Annabel Lee because it describes the tragic loss and the enduring love. The as she said, it's very mystical, and there's a supernatural element to it because it is more in his mind. He's remembering his lost love of childhood and the way he's weaved the imaginary and all. So yeah, he is very good with his words when it comes to supernatural expressions. And the language is slightly more archaic he uses some archaic words. It's not very the regular English words that he uses. Yeah. And he's one of the most renowned writers of his time in the American, and I think he changed he brought in a revolution or a change in the writing, skills or the writing technique in America
Yeah.
around that time, because uh, I think he was the first who started with more of detective and the suspense things.
Yeah.
He was
Exactly.
the father of suspense
He's
writing.
called the inventor of the detective stories that he wrote.
Yeah, he invented it, and so yeah, all his poems has a very mystical and a transcendental feel to it. Yeah,
Yeah.
poems.
Sunil ma'am, did you get some chance to read any of his work? Edgar Allan Poe?
Are you addressing me? I couldn't hear you. I could
And
make
which
out
you
what
have,
you said.
and which you have to convey.
Can
Yeah,
somebody?
ma'am, have you read any of Edgar Allan Poe's works and can you elaborate on them?
I'm rather fond of Edgar Allan Poe's poetry, and I have in fact used two of his lines from two of his poems. One is from The Raven, Nevermore, Nevermore, and
Nevermore.
the other one is A Dream Within a Tree. And I've written poems based on those lines, actually. But the poem I like most, he's rather dark. He's dark and he's melancholic. So I
Yeah,
am a person, I like a little bit of cheerfulness around me. And I like romance and love and sincerity. So the poem actually, uh, it is all, Lolita has already talked about that poem. And I totally agree with all that she said. My favorite poem of his is Annabel Lee. It talks
yeah,
about
and one
a love which surpasses death. Even after death, he is still in love with her. And they have been lovers since they were little children. They were friends and they grew up together and then they fell in love and got married and all that. And plus, that poem has a beautiful cadence. The rhyme and rhythm is beautiful,
Right.
that poem. And it is very suitable for recitation. Because, see, I feel the type of poetry I write blank also, I write rhyming also. I write just a hodgepodge of poetry, actually. I'm just a poet by default. And being a doctor, I'm not very familiar with the technicalities, and I don't believe in technicalities as far as poetry is concerned. It must come from my heart, and that is my poetry. Whether it is acknowledged uh, as a proper poem or not doesn't matter. I write for myself, basically.
Mm.
And this poem has that cadence and rhyme and rhythm. I feel there are two types of poems which you can read and enjoy, and then there are poems which you can recite and enjoy more by ear than by reading. It may not sound as good when you read it, but when you recite it, they sound beautiful. And then there are those serious philosophical blank poems which you uh, can't recite, but they are beautiful poems when you read them. So I like Annabel Lee for those reasons also.
Lovely. And if you get the chance, watch this movie called The Pale Blue Eyes. If you've already seen it, it's wonderful. It shows Edgar Allan Poe's a bit part of his life, and also it's kind of a detective story. It's, I think, fiction based, not from his, but he is a character in that movie. It's a lovely movie if you get the chance. And if you may allow, I will read out few lines of the poem The Raven, since we are talking about it. So, one of the most prominent poems ever written, it was first published with Poe's name in the January 29, 1845 issue of the Evening Mirror. An instant success, it brought Poe considerable national fame. So, here it is.
Can I
Once
can I
upon,
get the can I get the crux of what Mona Lisa just said? I could not follow anything. It just splits. The splits. It cracks.
okay, so ma'am, I was just about to read the poem, few lines from the poem The Raven, since we are talking about it right
she's
now.
yeah reading the poem.
Me.
No,
But
Mona
she's
Lisa
reading
ma'am will read the poem. Yeah, she's
Mona Lisa.
reciting a poem.
Few
Okay.
lines.
Yes. Please.
Yeah.
Please go ahead.
Once upon a midnight dreary, while I pondered, weak and weary, over many a quaint and curious volume of forgotten lore. While I nodded, nearly napping, suddenly there came a tapping, as of someone gently rapping at my chamber door. "'Tis some visitor," I muttered, tapping at my chamber door. "Only this and nothing more." Distinctly, I remember it was in the bleak December, and each separate dying ember wrought its coat upon the floor. Eagerly I wished the morrow, vainly I had sought to borrow from my books surcease of sorrow, sorrow for the lost Lenore. He's actually grieving his lost love, Lenore, through this poem. And that's how the mystical creature, the crow, the raven, comes at his window, the chamber door, that's what he's calling. And the word, repetitive word, nevermore, is more mysterious and uncanny because that raven is talking to him. So somehow he feels that it may be Lenore who has come to meet him. For the rare and radiant maiden whom the angels name Lenore, nameless here forevermore. I'll read only two para because it's a big one. So I got this book. If you please get the chance, wonderful. It has all the stories, all the poems. Most of his works are there. And also, if you read that story, Fall of Usher of House, something like this. It's also on Netflix, the series. It's a wonderful, wonderful story. So yeah, so I also love Edgar, and especially because I love to write thriller and macabre stuff, ominous gothic stuff. So Edgar Allan Poe becomes, godlike personality for such writers. Before we conclude, anything you would like to say about like how does poetry has changed your life, or maybe any stories or writing for that matter? Anwesha, you can say if you wish.
So actually, it has changed my life in a big way, especially in the last 2 years when I've been actively writing on various platforms. Earlier, I was not acquainted with so many people online on literary platforms and all. And what really propels me is another thing is that I have been acquainted with so many people like you all. So I have a big family out there who I can reach out to anytime because I feel they all have the same mindset to a certain extent. And I am not that much of an extrovert. So, but this new founded society that I have created of literary people, they give me a lot of hope and aspiration to write better. And it's really challenging and thrilling to participate in various platforms, and it gives me a sense of purpose above all else. So that I think is very, very essential.
Well said. I would agree with you. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Lolita?
sometimes. Yeah, I feel sometimes it is easier to put your emotions into words than, tell it out or express it verbally. At least it happens with me. And with writing, what happened is, as Anwesha said, I have a huge circle now. Virtually we have not met, but we know that there is some connection at a different level, maybe creative connection we have. And we are all on the same page because we all feel the same. And when some prompt is given, and then when we write, at least with Anvesha it happens that I can resonate with her poems. I know which from where she's coming from, and even I feel the same. And I sometimes, there's such beautiful writers around, all I mean, in the platform that I'm into. And I'm like in awe reading their poem and my poem, because I don't use a very flowery language, and my poems are usually very simple. I mean, even a person who has a basic knowledge of English, if he can probably understand my work. So yeah, I try to keep it as simple as possible. And so that, even because uh, to be honest, my mom was not very fluent in English. You know, she was from Lucknow, so she was into Hindi medium and Bengali. She was not very fluent in English, and my dad was a St. Xavier's. You know, so he would go on reciting some Shakespeare and Robert Frost and all, and my mom would understand it, but she could not resonate with it, and she was like, ठीक है, अच्छा है, like that type. So I thought that like the poem can be, if you Indianize it and make it more simple for people to understand, because it's the feeling that matters.
Right.
Language is just a way of communicating. It's the feeling. So if you can understand the feeling, if you can feel the poem, the language shouldn't be a barrier. So I try. That's the reason I keep my words very simple and try to make it as simple for layman to understand. And that's how I got into it. Now I have a wonderful acquaintances and a writer family with you all. I've been with you, Mona Lisa, for such a long time. You were the first one who published my first anthology was with you, so you hold a very special place for me. And then again, I've been I've participated in several anthologies. So yeah, that keeps me going. And yeah, your prompts are interesting, so that keeps me thinking also through the day and the night what to write. Yeah.
Lovely. Sunil ma'am, can you hear me?
I can partially. I hear bits and bobs of you. Yes, but I heard this.
So if you can hear me, just I would just like to know that has writing changed your life as well?
Can somebody please uh, repeat
And
that for me?
Anwesha, please,
I could
could
not
you just
make
Yeah,
out.
so ma'am wants to know, how has writing changed your life? How does it help you?
Uh, Actually, I I when I went to medical college, I was 17. Before that, you are like a child, while you're in school and all that. And I had no idea that I creativity is something, by you could pursue it by choice. During our times, it was parents who decided what career you are to take up. And I was bluffed into believing that I was intelligent enough to become a doctor, so I had to become a doctor. My father was very keen I should pursue medicine. So I went to medical college without realizing that that was an avenue which was not really something where I could flourish and be happy. See, I was a studious person, so I coped up with the studies, but I was not happy doing it because my inner being wanted to be on the stage. I wanted to do theater, which I did a lot of theater in medical college. And then I wanted to go for public speaking. I wanted to dance. I wanted to sing. I wanted to do everything that was artistic. And I was very happy when I was pushed into youth festivals and all, and I would come back with a whole lot of prizes. But that also brought down my level of grades. In medical college, you can't be dancing around and yet being able to really come up to that level because it is very serious studies. It is a lot of hard labor, which I was not happy doing, though I struggled to cope up with it. And I managed to. After that, I became a doctor and I had a good flourishing practice and all that I managed. But when I had to give up medicine after practice after a very severe accident, I was almost 70 that time. I was 69. I had to give up practice that time. I had a bad injury to my back and other parts of my body after an accident. And my daughter thought my mother will go crazy. She used to be so active everywhere. So she got me a laptop and she started this Facebook account for me. And probably I was commenting in a certain way, or I may have written something. And I started getting invitations from various e-magazines to write for them. And I was very thrilled when my first three poems were published because we didn't know, my generation didn't know anything about social media and all that. We had never dreamt that I never dreamt that my poetry would get published anywhere. And Then I started winning awards and getting accolades, being appointed as chosen as a judge, and that really made me satisfied. I felt well. I am doing my tribe now. I found my tribe, and I am a member of various groups. Mona Lisa has been very kind to include me in many of her projects, and I've written for a few anthologies also for me. And I'm very happy to be on Facebook and now Instagram. I've just newly learned how to take on Instagram and all that. And this family, online family of ours, is wonderful. I have found people, like-minded people, as Lolita said. And it is very, very satisfying to be amongst people who think your way, because the world is actually, it's very difficult to control the world around us as it is now. So to find a small group of people, not really very small, it is quite large now, but still there are people who understand you and who you click with. So I really enjoy that now. It has given me a great sense of satisfaction and achievement as well. Achievement.
That's true. So lovely knowing your stories that how writing has changed your life, and I'm sure it will bring many more good things in the future as well. Because I think this is just the beginning. There's a lot of creativity that you have to unfold slowly to the world. So I wish you all the very best with your creative journey, and please do send me the poems so that I can change them into visual poetry. And thank you for joining me today. A physical certificate and a surprise gift book will surely reach you soon. So lovely having you today. And thank you, audience, for being part of the first poetry reading event today. Lovely to have you all. Bye and take care.
Thank you so
Bye,
much.
Bye.
bye.
Thank you.
Bye
Bye. Thank you
bye.
for having
Bye bye,
us.
everybody.
Bye
Lovely being
Yeah,
bye.
with
thank you
you.
so much.
And we would love to be part of your poetry sessions.
Definitely.
Thank you.
It's been lovely. Thank you. Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
Sunil ma'am. Thank you, Anwesha. Bye bye, Lolita. Thank you.
Bye bye. Bye
Bye
bye.
bye.
Bye.